We're live. Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you?
I am well, and yourself?
Doing great. Doing great. You seem to be hired. What? How did you get way up there? Let me see if I can change all that.
I
Okay,
scooted up in my seat.
I see. Okay. So, as always, I'm super jazzed about the program we're going to do today, but I haven't had a chance to talk with you. How are you?
I'm good. It's been still winding down from the tax thing or the people pre-prep because I don't do taxes, but
Yeah.
pre-prep for the
Yeah.
taxes, which is almost as
Yeah.
bad or worse than the taxes. And so I finally got that done. I've made a decision that I will not be, if I'm not working on folks' stuff right now for 2026, they don't get done. I don't do them in 2025. I don't know what anybody else will be doing.
Not your concern.
Not my concern.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, but other than that, weekend was yeah, kind of quiet because I kind of rounded it down before the weekend, and the weather was kind of nice. We were at the tennis a park, and but my kids are in process for biz competition for May 2nd, so we're now meeting every Saturday,
Oh, wow.
and
Great. Great.
so that's what we're doing now. And not all of them, they kind of drag in, so it extends out to longer than it would have been if I had a class. But we want them to be prepared, and they've been kind of lackadaisical on coming in doing March. So now we got to crunch
Yeah.
it and do
Yeah.
some other things.
Yeah. Hold. I forgot your bio again. Hold on just a moment.
Okay.
I was so proud of myself. I was all ready for you, and then that happened.
Oh, okay.
Here
All
we
that
go.
drama, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So, pretty interesting show today. I think we may have talked about this kind of in the past. It's something that I've come to realize as of late that as an advisor and as a salesperson of 401k plans that I was doing, and that is trying to teach people to be investment professionals, or at least expecting folks to be investment professionals. There's some research out there that sort of counters that. And so that's the way that many of us are starting to design retirement plans. So we're going to talk about that subject, becoming an investment professional, and how we can help participants actually reach their retirement outcome in a better fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So here's what I'll do. I'll read your bio, and
Okay.
um, and then we'll get started. How's that?
All right. Sounds good.
Cool. Hello, everyone. Please allow me to welcome you to our broadcast today on the patio with Crystal and Jevon. I'm
Mm-hmm.
Jevon Thomas, a licensed retirement plan advisor. I sell and manage company sponsored retirement plans like 401ks, 403b9s, 403b7s, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's also the director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's the co host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. That's another uh, weekly radio show that you'll want to take advantage of. She's
Mm-hmm.
also an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and rounding it out, she is a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crystal, how you doing?
Hey, how are ya?
I'm good. I'm good. Are you
Good to
ready to talk
hear.
about
Yeah,
this?
I am. I think that's a very interesting topic. Uh, you have such high aspirations for your clients, huh?
Yes. I think, I think in a way many of us did, and I think we come by it honestly, sometimes from a place of fear. And that's probably a pretty strong word, but I think that's one of the things. And also, just to make sure that we are actually providing the best product that we can. So we
Mm.
came by it honestly. And I'll
Okay.
tell you what, when these plans first started, and even now, I might as well just say now, if you're the fiduciary or of a plan sponsor, someone that actually brings one of these into your organization, the key factor, the thing that you're supposed to do the most is to operate the plan for the benefit of participants.
Wow.
So that's the key thing there. And from that, we get okay, how do we serve those participants? And from that, we get well, education. And education means we talk to them about what's a stock, what's a bond. I spend a lot of time talking with folks about that. But what the research I've done is starting to show is that even though we want to do things for the benefit of participants,
Mm-hmm.
we're in effect trying to make them investment professionals. And
Mm.
some folks just don't want to do that. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that is kind of working today. We're going to
Okay.
dig into that. So, most times when we set up an investment menu, folks ask, how do you get these investments? Well, most times when we set up that menu, we're trying to make sure that the participants have a well diversified portfolio, that they can choose the investments that are going to be right for them. All right. So we're already going down the path of getting these folks educated, getting them to the point where they can make decisions. Unfortunately, I'm just going to say it right out right now. I've never met an employer who started their company so that they could help people retire. That's not the way we do things, right?
Yeah, not normally.
So usually they're providing that benefit, and if they get a chance to talk to folks like myself, they're providing that benefit so that they can actually grow their company. They're turning it into a profit center, right?
Right.
But at the same time, they're not starting that company so that they can help people retire. Now, I will tell you this: most of the companies that I work with really do value their employees. They want their employees to reach that outcome. However, they're not too sure how to do it. And then they need to balance that with, we got to get the work done.
Right.
I have some manufacturing plants that'll say, Javon, I'd love for you to come in here and talk to our employees. We definitely want them to retire with dignity, but it takes us about an hour and a half to shut the line down. Then you're going to have these folks off the line for an hour, and then it's going to
Mm.
take us about an hour and a half to start that line up. So right
Mm-hmm.
away, that's 2, 3, 4 hours out of that person's day. And depending on the margins that you're working with, that can be really, really expensive. The blue collar jobs are different than white collar jobs, but still, even in the white collar world, that's time that folks aren't necessarily being productive towards the means and ends of the company. Make
Right.
sense? So
Yeah.
it's a thing when I'm big on education because I don't have to pay their salary. So we get it.
And
So
downtime means money to them.
hello, exactly. So the first thing we do is give them that well diversified list. Now I and most of my colleagues, at least the plans that how should I put it? The plans that I don't take usually, those plans usually have 15 funds that are domestic. And then maybe we stretch so that in general we have 15 to 20 funds to choose from, right? So we've got some large, medium, and small companies, short term, intermediate, long term bonds, government bonds, corporate bonds. We got some international in there. So we can get a well diversified mix
Mm-hmm.
if you know what you're doing.
Right.
And if you
Right.
don't know what you're doing, then you can talk with me, right? If you don't know what you're doing and you don't talk to me, you can always get into what I typically do is put your assets into a target date fund. But what if you don't have that?
Yeah.
Or what if you're scared? What if you're thinking, ah, I don't know what to do? First of all, we give you sometimes 10 target date funds. So you've got 10 target date funds that you don't know what they are because they don't sound like something you want to invest in. You've got um, 20 different fund names that you don't know how they're investing your money. So, what kind of happens is people decide not to do anything. They don't know how to get started, they don't want to make a mistake, so they do nothing.
We used when I was in health insurance. Somewhat, we had those same issues as well. Most people didn't understand what plans, couldn't understand the whole concept of all the different plans from the owner, and especially when it got down to the employees. And so that was a challenge we had as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean,
I
let's
think
get right.
yeah,
Go ahead.
because I think most people, they're coming to go to work because they need to make money, right? And fantastic, you give us this and that. It doesn't really become an issue until, as we said, retirement, or if it's like what I was doing, health insurance. If someone got sick, right, then I remember because I worked in HR as well, and we'd have long lines of people like, okay, oh, I have to do this, we have to do this, but I can't understand this. I don't know what this is saying to me. So then you spend hours on, and that was before you could, the companies were online, and employees actually have a member page that they could access with all their information that was very detailed. That was for us a lifesaver
Yeah.
because it really explained it in layman terms
Hmm.
that from their point of view that they can understand.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to come right out and say it. Our first clip opportunity here is, well, um, we've been told more is better, more fund options,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, in 401k plans, that's not always the case.
Mhm.
Our second clip is going to be when you make it too complicated, folks, just don't do anything.
No, they don't.
There you go. So, what happens when that happens, right? When they don't do anything? Number one, they don't get enrolled. Number two, they stay in that default plan and they never check to make sure that that's appropriate for them, right?
Mhm.
And number three, they just do all kinds of funky things. You'd be surprised some of the mixes I come up with. Oh my goodness, you would be really surprised. And then their confidence never gets built. They don't turn into investors. They don't know what's going on. They don't know who to ask. And they just kind of sit there and let it roll. And then they wake up and say, why don't I have any money? Where's all this money gone? Right. And I get to say to them, great that you're in the plan, but you really ought to understand how to make this thing work for you specifically. And they say, Jevon, I know this is English, but I don't really understand what it is.
Mhm.
And I think often that comes from too much choice with that asterisk of not enough education. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Exactly.
should flip that one. Too much choice, not enough education.
And I
That's the
think people are overall when it comes to um investments and stock markets and all that sort of stuff, they're terrified that they're going to make a mistake. It's kind of like people who have never used a computer before, and
yes.
right, and you're teaching them how to use a software on the computer, but they're afraid that if they hit any button, it's going to just delete everything. So
Yeah.
they're kind of especially those when we talk about manufacturing environments and places like that. Now I'm sure you're when you're in a more clerical or uh, white collar type environments, they're a little bit more savvy. But when you do provide these things, which is usually where these are, because they're in more blue collar, where physical jobs, and so they just come into work and go to work, right? They don't quite understand all of the dynamics that go along with it, and there's a lot of fear factor there.
I am a card carrying member of that club. you know
Okay.
how you know how wonderful I am with electronic things, and I know exactly what you mean. I have been doing things on my laptop right here. In fact, it happened to me just today, doing some stuff on there, and hit a button that I didn't know I had hit. Whole screen went black. Nothing there. I'm like, what? What now? What do I do? So I get it. I am I am cart. I may be the president of that
That
club.
club.
I just might. Yeah.
But
So
know that you're
I.
not alone. There's a lot of members.
That's right. That's right. I am there with many of my fellows. Yes, I totally understand that. So then the question becomes, well, what should we do? Right? How do we fix this? Because it's one thing to have the problem, it's another thing to come with a solution. Um, in my opinion, there's a couple of things that we can do. Number one, we got to get a better plan design, right? We got to stop looking at turning these folks into investment professionals and start looking at outcomes, because outcomes are really what's going to help that business owner drive people into the business that he wants, hang on to those people, and then get rid of them when he needs to so that he can drive some more people in that he wants, or
Hmm.
she can make sure those people are happy. That's all about outcomes from the participant point of view. So how do we do that? Um, there's a couple of things. One, we can simplify those investment menus. That's that's one. We can make them easy to understand. Um, we can give people paths to take rather than just all these options, right? So we can make sure we have that target date fund. We can make sure that we have those balanced funds that are going to fit into their mindset. We can ask people to take the questionnaire. That's my big one. Take the questionnaire and explain to folks this is how it works. You take the questionnaire, you get the mix, right? We
Hmm.
can get a better QDIA product slash place slash investment thing, right? So a QDIA, that's the qualified investment alternative. Like if the person doesn't make a change or a decision as to where they want to put the money, they can put it in
Uh-huh.
the QDIA, right? Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of cool. So lots of times we put a target date fund in there, so at least you're investing at the age that's appropriate for you. But as you know, as big a fan of target date funds as I am, and I've never said that, um, never ever, but they serve a useful place.
Okay.
Um, they tend to work, and I know a lot of very smart people that use them, but they understand how they work. But they tend to group everybody who is the same age in the same fund. And there's nothing wrong with that in our 20s, but in our 40s and our 50s, and sometimes even in our 30s, we don't look like every other 30 or 40 or 50-year old, right? So
Right.
that mix may or may not be appropriate. So, how do you manage that? And that's a good question for your advisor, not your plan sponsor, not your HR person, your advisor. It's a great question for your advisor. So, call that advisor up and say, hey, is this target date fund? Is this QDIA? Is this still working for me? If you can do that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
And that's a good approach.
yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah.
And also, if we got time for another clip, I'm going to say the best plans don't offer more choices, they offer better paths. So it's more about the path that you're on. That's the deal, right? If you're on that
Hmm.
path of using a qualified default investment alternative, great. Let's make sure that it's right for you. If you're on the
Right.
path of choosing the particular investments that are going to be right for you, great. Take that questionnaire. Let's make sure you've got the right group of investments. Check in with folks like me on an annual basis. If you're in some
Right.
type of balance fund, great. Or a couple of different of those, great. Let's just make sure, and the questionnaire I think is a big part of that, that the mix is appropriate for you. That's all. Understand where you're investing and if that works for you. And that way you don't have those surprises at the end, right?
Mm.
So we don't need to make you an investment professional, but we do need to give you the rules of the game so that you can actually play and do well. That's the that's the that's the rub. I'm going to say that's a
Yeah.
thing to clip to. so that you nope,
Okay.
right? Let's not make you an investment alternative. Let's make sure you play the game and do well. Okay,
Right,
so
exactly. That's a good one. That works.
yeah, yeah, that's okay. That's all right. All right. Okay,
Oh,
so I think when we bring somebody in as a new person to the organization, um, we want to make sure that someone can get into that plan, get a pretty good understanding of that in a very short time. Because lots of people got a lot of things on their mind when they're coming in. They got a lot of paperwork to fill out, and all of a sudden we throw that retirement thing at them, and they're just signing. It's like buying a house. You're just signing stuff. You don't even know what it is. You're just signing, 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 signing.
right.
Uh, so you know, you want to get to the point, especially I think with retirement, and see if you're guiding them through a process that's actually going to turn into a good outcome for them, or you're just overwhelming them with all these choices, all
Mm.
these funds, all this curriculum. I have been accused of saying, that's English, but I still don't know what you're talking about. So, we want to make sure that we're not doing that to folks. And, I think if for me, if I'm going to sum this up, I would say um, a good plan doesn't offer lots of choices, and that's a tough one to put out there because lots of times the plan sponsor is in the plan as well as the participants. Lots of times they have a better view of their investments than the participants do, and they don't want to invest the way that people who don't know anything about the market does. Right, so
Mm.
they're going to want to put some stuff in the plan that maybe just isn't appropriate for folks that are just starting out in their career. So a good plan just doesn't offer choices. A corollary is that a good plan helps people choose what's good for them.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
because a
So
lot
we
of
want
times we've all found out that you know we don't sometimes know what's good for us. So we need to have someone, and especially retirement, depending on the age. And we've spoken on this on many occasions. If you're in your early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, you're not thinking about what's going to happen. 65 is or 72 is like so far off um that you're not, well, I don't know what I'm going to need at that point, right? I don't even know if I'm
Mhm.
going to be here. So,
Right.
something, cuz I get those, I get that quite often when you're talking to people. I don't even know if I'm going to be here. Why am I worried about that now? Well, but you don't know that you're not going to be here, right?
There you
So,
go.
that's really the question you should be asking. Be prepared in the case of. How about that?
Hmm. Yeah. Well said. In the case of, and as a person who is in this business for a while, and I don't consider myself extremely bright, I'm going to say I'm above average intelligence. I'm going to give
Okay,
myself.
I would say that too.
Okay.
Okay.
But, it is our job, those of us that are in the business, especially this business, the retirement plan business. It is our job uh, to make people or to give people the opportunity to make good decisions about what's going to be good for them, right? The plan is designed as an employee benefit, and it is supposed to be run for the best interest of the participants, right? Not for the company, not for the owner, not for the retirement plan advisor. The most important people in a retirement plan are the participants. And we need to make sure, and I would say 99% of my colleagues that are in this business are in it to make sure that people reach a good outcome, right?
Yeah,
That they get to where they want to go. It's not like we're not trying to be opaque with that at all.
yeah.
So those of you that are listening, please uh, challenge your advisor. They want you to. And number two, those of us that are advisors, we're here. We want to do it. We're in. You know,
Mhm.
we're in it. So please reach out to us and take the call if we can get to you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I needed to say. I'm gonna read your bio and give you the last word if you want.
Okay. Again,
Well, I'm gonna
we're
read the
in.
bio first.
Oh, okay. 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 I jump right
Yeah,
on in
I
there.
know who you are, Crystal. You can't just start talking. Okay, everybody, you've been
Okie
listening
dokie.
to On the Patio with Crystal and Jevon. It's a weekly online radio show about retirement plans. And my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell, is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's the co host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. That's another online radio show you should check out if you can. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified for network, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, excuse me, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Okay, Crystal, we have talked about too many options in the plan. What's your last word?
Again, I think we always just have to do that. We just have to make sure people are well aware, and they do have to be engaged in this. This is about their life, and the employer doesn't have any clue as to what you want your retirement life to look like. He knows what his wants to look like. He definitely knows what he wants it to look like. But for you, that's on you. You have to be the one that is connecting to that, and especially the closer you get to retirement age, probably in your 40s, you're much closer than if you're in your 20s.
Mm,
Start thinking about that. As we say, you want a life after retirement. You don't have to go want to go out and get 2, 3 part-time jobs, which is usually what happens, right? And now you're just working until you're 100, until you just
right.
stop. You just stop
Yeah.
breathing one day, and retirement. Especially if you worked hard. I hear people go, "Wow, I gave a lot," because it's not just the work, not the 8 hours. Depending on the type of job you're doing, you're taking some time away from your family, your children, your parents, and you're at work 24/7 trying to make it happen. So you want to be able to enjoy the fruits of those labors when that time comes.
I couldn't have said it better than that. I think the only thing I would add is I'm just going to go right out and say this because I don't have children. I'm just going to say that love looks a little bit different than it used to. I mean, there was a time when maybe as a parent you didn't think about helping your kid prepare for retirement. Today, that's in there. You need to do that. Help your child prepare for retirement, especially if you're in a lower economic situation where you as the parent are looking at being sandwiched between the needs of your children and the needs of your parents. If you're there, and so many of us are, we're in it right now, we're there,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
we want to find a way to prepare our kids so that um, they don't have to do that to their kids.
Yeah,
Because
I
we know
agree.
what it's like to have it on us, right? And God bless our
Hmm.
parents. I'm definitely not saying that this isn't a situation about blame. This is a
Mm-mm.
situation about changing momentum, right? So if you're looking at being in a sandwich perch situation where you're taking care of the older folks and you're taking care of the younger folks and you can't save, if that's you and that's been happening for a while, I have a newsflash for you. It's going to start happening. It's going to keep happening. And we can put a stop to it by getting you educated about your retirement plan.
Exactly.
There it is.
I agree.
There it is. So,
Hmm.
this has been Conversation on the Patio. I'm Javon Thomas, licensed retirement plan advisor, and my friend and colleague Crystal Mitchell, who's doesn't sleep. She's got so much stuff going on here in her bio.
Is she actually starting to feel it?
We've had a great time chatting with y'all. We will be back next week on the Patio with Crystal and Javon.
All
See you
right.
then.
Bye bye, everyone. See you next week. Have a great one.